Today we'll be talking about constitution. Although we've talked about this topic sometimes ago, actually about last year or 2 years ago, but there is a need for us to revisit the topic once again. Constitution. What is constitution? Constitution can be defined as a laid down principle, rules, and regulation that guides the conduct of the people in a particular society. Constitution can be defined as a laid down principle, rules, and regulation that guides the behavior of the people in a particular society. Why do we have constitution? One of the primary reasons why we have constitution is to guide our behavior, both the government and both the rulers and the people. So because we have constitution, and don't forget the fact that the main purpose of the government is to maintain law and orderliness in the society. So because of the constitution and the law we have, people tends to behave normally. They behave accurately. They behave like people who are sane, because it is a well-known fact that if you behave in an abnormal way, you already know the repercussion, because there are things you should do and things you shouldn't do. And things that you should do are spelled out in the constitution. Things that things that citizens cannot do are also spelled out in the constitution. So if you go against the laid down rules and regulation, which is the constitution or the law, there are repercussions for that. And now, moving forward, we have to look into the constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is the process of practicing this particular constitution. It's the process of bringing it to practice. Yes, and we also have features. We have features of constitutionalism. What are the features of constitutionalism? One of the features of constitutionalism is rule of law. What is rule of law? Rule of law is the laid down principle, is the supremacy. Rule of the law is the supremacy of law over everybody in a given society. Rule of law is the supremacy. When we talked about supremacy, yes, something that is moving and nothing is moving. So the supreme, that means a law that moves everybody and nothing is moving such a law. That is the meaning. So the law actually moves us, guides us, directs us, and we are not the one directing the law. So that is why if you go to a law court, you see the lady of justice whose hand is being spread out, who's actually spread her hands like this according to the law, which signify, if you look at that particular hands and you see a sword, you see something like a what is it called? Something like an iron, a straight iron on that particular ends on the other side, with something like a string, which symbolize both the rich and the poor, which means they are equal before the law. And the blindness of that particular lady, which symbolizes that the law does not recognize anybody, either you're rich or you're poor, either you are affluent or influential. So that is it. So that is, we also have fundamental human rights. What is fundamental human right? Fundamental human rights are the rights granted to the citizen. They are the right inscribed, or the right granted to the citizen of a particular country to perform some certain functions. Like, for instance, right to life, which is the most sacrosanct and the most important human right. Right to life, right to education, right to education, right to freedom of movement, right to freedom of choice, right to freedom of education, right to freedom of religion or social activities, social gathering. Yes, those are our fundamental human rights. It's different from obligation, don't forget. It's different from, but fundamental human rights are things that the constitution or the law permits the citizens to do. Also, we also have what we call supremacy of the constitution. What do you mean by the supremacy of the constitution? Supremacy of the constitution, which is one of the features of constitutionalism, is the constitution is supreme, is more powerful than any other individual in the society. The constitution is supreme and powerful more than any other individual or supersede any other law in the country. That is the constitution of a particular country. And don't forget the fact that individual countries operate different system, different constitution. We have written constitution, we have unwritten constitution. So another features of constitutionalism is independence of the judiciary. Any country that the judiciary is not independent, that particular country tends to experience what we call pandemonium. Such a society tends to experience what we call perpetual negligence of the law. Such a country will definitely experience the rich trampling upon the right of the poor. Such a country will always experience people taking an advantage of the less privileged in a society. So one of the benefits of independence of the judiciary is that the judiciary will be free from external control, will be free from fear or favor. That means they can actually dispense justice without being scared, without fear or without favor. That means either you are poor or rich. Even if you are rich and you are against the law, and you actually go against the law, that means the law can actually stand against you. That is when the judiciary is actually made independent and free from external control. And in every society, any democratic society, the judiciary must be free from external control, which will actually enhance development and also uphold the fundamental rights of the people. So lastly, I also talked about the check and balance. What do you mean by check and balance? The word check means checking something, like looking into something to get a proper attention of that particular thing. So now in government, now when we relate, if we relate it to government now, checks and balance means individual arms of governments trying to checkmate the excesses or the activities of one another. Why are they checkmating the activities of one another? Is to prevent what we call anarchy in the system. Is to prevent what we call pandemonium in the system. Another thing is it does is this. It actually prevents what we call abuse of power. So when we have checks and balance in the system where the executive checks the activities of the legislature checks the activities of the judiciary, and both of them working together. If you check the system, you discover that they work independently and cooperatively. Why are they working independently and cooperatively? In order to checkmate the activities of one another, so that one arm of government will not become dictatorial in nature. So that one arm of government will actually perform that particular function for which it is being established. So that is, and everybody will be able to perform its own function at its own pace without hindrance or favor or fear. So these are the features of constitutionalism. So, like I said, we have different kind of constitution in the world. We have a written constitution, we have unwritten constitution, we have a flexible constitution, we also have what we call rigid constitution, depending on the system of government that is being operated in an individual country, or depending on the system of government which individual country operates actually. So the written constitution, what is written constitution? Written constitution are laid down principles, rules and regulations that are codified in a single document. Why are they codified in a single document? One of the advantages is that it can be easily referred to. That is part of the reason why it is being codified in a single document, so that it can easily be referred to at any time. And we also have unwritten constitution. What is unwritten constitution? Unwritten constitution are rules and regulations, laws that are written but are not codified in a single document. They are not codified in a single document. And one of the advantages is that it can easily be amended. That's one of the advantages. Unlike the written constitution cannot be easily amended. It takes special procedure for amendment. But unlike written constitution, it is easy to amend. And also, we also have what we call rigid constitution. Rigid constitution, hearing the word rigid means something hard. Rigid constitution are rules too, lay down rules and regulation that guide the behavior of the people. But the procedure for amendment is cumbersome. It's tedious. And flexible constitution too. Flexible constitution can we can actually take flexible constitution. It operates just like an unwritten constitution. It's easy to amend. Yes, that is why you see that countries that practice unwritten constitution, they change their policies at will, depending on the circumstance, depending on what is actually happening in that particular country at that particular period. So, like in Britain, they operate what they call a parliamentary system of government, and their constitution is unwritten constitution. Like Nigeria now, like I said, Nigeria operates what they call written constitution. Before you can amend the constitution in Nigeria, it will take the two-third members of the joint section of the National Assembly, both the red chamber and the green chamber. The red chamber and the green chamber must come together, and before it will be passed into law or amended, it must be amended by two-third members of the joint section. And you see that it takes a lot of period, takes a lot of time, because some of these legislation, some of them they don't even come to the assembly. Some of them they come to the assembly when they like. Sometimes they persuade them. The chief whip sometimes persuades them to come to the assembly so that laws can be made, or amend the constitution can be the amending of the constitution can be made for the betterment of everyone in the society. So we'll continue in our next class, but before we go, I will drop some questions on the screen for you to answer. In our next class, we'll continue from where we stop, and I will explain more better on this particular. I will explain better. I will explain better as regards the constitution and the constitutionalism. Thank you, and God bless you.